In meditation, we give our full attention to what is most real and precious in ourselves and in all. As we will discover what is real and precious in us, in fact, what we really are is infinitely greater than what we ordinarily feel ourselves to be. True self-knowledge brings lasting fulfillment and frees us from all fear, even fear concerning the approaching end of our life. It is sometimes said that the non-dual teachings present a kind of theory, and that our meditations and other practices are like the experiments through which we may confirm for ourselves the truth of the great hypothesis. There is some validity in this view. It rightly recognizes that on this path, each of us makes our own investigations and our own discoveries, and rigid ideas about ultimate reality are an obstacle, not a solution. Yet the parallels with physical theories and research are not complete. There are important differences. What are they? In empirical research, both the theories and the evidence are distinct from the investigator. And the more the theories and the findings can be separated from the investigator's point of view, the better. In contrast, non-duality in theory and practice is concerned with our ultimate self, with what is not separate from us, the inquirer, in any way. All separation is what we are seeking to overcome. Another point is that the physical investigator is looking for empirical evidence which corresponds to the theory. The evidence and the theory are closely connected and both involve descriptions of the objective world. The non-dual teachings on the nature of our true self, as we said, are also a kind of hypothesis, which has to be given in words and forms that the mind can grasp. But self-realization or enlightenment completely transcends anything we may experience on the path. It does not resemble any kind of thought or sense experience. Direct knowledge of reality, the ultimate self of all, is not mediated by the forms of thought or the brain or space or time. It is that in which all these appear. One further difference between empirical investigation and the non-dual inquiry is that strong scientific support for a physical theory leads to further questions and new or refined hypotheses. In contrast, the ultimate self-knowledge is absolute and final. Regarding the reality status of the world and the nature of the self, it leaves nothing further to be known, nor can it ever be lost. So there is a gap, a radical divide between investigation on the path to enlightenment and the final discovery. A gap which does not occur in the exploration of nature. This means that the final non-dual discovery cannot be shared directly. It doesn't fit any conventional form of thought and communication. Students of nature, given the required aptitude and perseverance, can in principle be led step by step from a rudimentary level to a full understanding of the latest discoveries. In the case of the non-dual inquiry, the teachings can indicate the way, but there is, as we just noticed, a point beyond which the senses and mind and all knowledge that can be demonstrated publicly cannot go. In our scientific technological world, there is a distrust of anything that is not supported by independent evidence. And this is a healthy attitude in its right place. But it should be clear that if we seek rational and empirical demonstrations where reason and the senses do not apply, only difficulties and confusion can result. Questions arise. Is the ultimate truth really there to be found? Is it worthy of our highest devotion and efforts? Friends, no words can convey the magnitude of this truth. Here, reassurance from an illumined source is the only guidance that can be offered. There is a way to the realization of this truth, which is open to all of us. It involves the cultivation of certain qualities of mind. One of these great life skills and keys to liberation is called in Sanskrit Shraddha. This word Shraddha is often translated as faith or trust, but those words do not convey the full meaning and may have some unhelpful associations. True Shraddha grows from an understanding of what we have just been considering in the non-dual inquiry. There is a point beyond which there can be no complete explanations and public demonstrations. Only indications are possible. Shraddha is the inner balance, clarity, and readiness to go on in the light of higher guidance to the goal of absolute inner freedom and illumination. How do we develop Shraddha? It is by using all our powers of observation and reason in the right way up to their limit. We are offered guidance from an illumined source. Then it is up to us to absorb what we have heard, and we do this by carefully thinking and feeling how it applies to us personally. The non-dual teachings explain how our human situation comes about, and we find ourselves to be apparently isolated individuals, vulnerable and mortal, within a vast cosmos. But it is possible to overcome this apparent separation and know the reality in us, free of limitations and suffering. Even at the beginning of our research, there is something in our immediate experience that is unchanging and self-luminous. And this is the opening that leads to joy and ultimately to transcendence. It is for each of us to consider these teachings, and if we find them meaningful and satisfying, to assimilate and apply them. Every step forward involves a balance of theory and practice. In fact, as our investigations proceed, guidance and application merge as we gain a heightened awareness of what is happening in our mind. Theory and practice fuse into a life of wise love and inner discovery when it becomes our habit to dwell on the non-dual insights and affirmations to the exclusion of unhelpful, obstructive thoughts. What are we doing at the time of meditation each day? At this special time, we withdraw for a while from outer activities. We absorb our attention in expressions of the pure truth that our apparently individualized consciousness is not, never was, and never could be essentially different from the absolute, universal consciousness. Friends, I would like to consider one of the challenges we are likely to meet on the path and how we can overcome it. Put simply, it is that much of the time we have a strong feeling that we are our mind and no more, that our thoughts and feelings, our joys and sufferings are what we are. This conviction constantly challenges the teaching and our aspiration to realize that we are much more than the mind and are ultimately not bound by its limitations. But if we think about this with care and guidance, how could the one consciousness that is aware equally of all the changing experiences itself be a changing object? And yet, however reasonable and appealing we find these teachings, it may still feel that they're just a theory and that a theoretical idea is not strong enough to overcome the real feeling that we are our mind and that what limits the mind limits us. And so we may find ourselves immobilized, half consciously waiting and hoping for a solution to this problem, which prevents us from progressing on the path. But what would we be waiting for? Could it be for an intellectual proof of what cannot be proven intellectually? Or an experience that can only come after, not before, we have taken the necessary steps? The solution to this lingering doubt cannot be the kind of proof that we might expect in the course of empirical investigation. At this point on the inner path, what we need is Shraddha. It's true, we may be aware of the feeling, I am my mind, and affected by its ups and downs. Shraddha is the inner clarity and strength to recognize, yes, that is how it feels, but I am much more, I'm much more than any feeling. In my deeper nature, I am the consciousness that reveals all thoughts and feelings and is not limited by any of them. There is nothing naive or intellectually lazy about Shraddha. It is a heightened awareness of what is happening in our mind and of the true power of our inner resources. Shraddha is the intuitive certainty that the reality in me is the reality underlying and transcending all limitations. this conscious, balanced Shraddha can free us of deep-seated insecurities and inhibitions, opening the way to absolute freedom from all the bonds and limitations of time, space, causation.